Audiologists help clients with hearing, balance, and other ear issues. In this video, we're going to help you answer the question, should you become an audiologist in 2020? We're going to go over the latest salaries, job statistics, and the latest trends. Coming up. Hey everyone, Stephen Hack here with CareerWatch, where I help you with your career search. If you end up enjoying the video, hit that thumbs up to support the channel. All the charts and graphs used in this video are available at my blog at www.careerwatch.co/blog/audiologist. Audiologists have a number of roles and responsibilities. They examine, diagnose, and treat patients with hearing, balance, and related ear problems. They help fit and dispense hearing aids. They counsel patients and families about related hearing and balance issues. They keep up to date with the latest research on ear-related issues, and they educate patients on how to prevent hearing loss. For more technical information on this field, check out the Coursera course, Introduction to Hearing Loss. This course retails for about $50, and it is taught by Dr. Mara K. Cusetti in association with the Icahn School of Medicine. It currently has an average 4.8 star rating with over 278 reviews. And as always with Coursera, at the end of every course, you can embed a certificate of completion in your LinkedIn profile. So how much does an audiologist make in 2020? For this, we're going to use Bureau of Labor Statistics data. It doesn't include overtime and benefits. In 1999, the Bureau of Labor Statistics recorded $45,670 as the base salary of an audiologist. In 2019, this average base salary rose to $83,900. So wages grew by about $38,230 from 1999 to 2019. This gives us an average yearly wage growth of around $1,900 per year. Using this average yearly wage growth, we can predict that in 2020, the average base salary would be around $86,000 per year. And by 2029, if trends continue, the average base salary would rise to about $103,000 per year. Experience and geography definitely play a role in the compensation of audiologists across the United States. A starting salary for an audiologist would probably be around $54,000 per year. This is the 10th percentile. Whereas someone that has lots of experience and lives in probably a pretty hot job market, the top 10% of audiologists make over $120,000 per year. So using 2019 data, there's actually a $67,000 difference between someone starting their career as an audiologist and someone late into their career. But another huge factor is geography. Depending on where an audiologist works, which state they work in, wages tend to be higher or lower. In this map, the dark blue states tend to pay audiologists the greatest amount of money, whereas the lighter blue states tend to pay them not quite as much money. The beige states have no data associated with them. So the lowest paying state for audiologists is the state of Mississippi, where the average base salary is around $60,000, and the highest paying state on average for audiologists is North Dakota, with an average base salary of around $120,000 per year. This is a $60,000 difference between the lowest paying state and the highest paying state. Work environment also plays a role in the compensation of audiologists. Hospitals tend to pay the greatest amount of money, with an average base salary of around $84,000, and doctors' offices tend to pay the least. Compared to similar occupations, audiologists do okay. They make more than respiratory therapists and speech-language pathologists. To be fair, respiratory therapists, that only requires an associate's degree, whereas speech-language pathologist, that requires a master's degree. Audiologist actually requires a 4-year doctoral degree. Audiologists are out-earned by occupational therapists, physical therapists, physician assistants, and psychologists. And all of these require a different level of education. We'll get into the education of audiologists a little bit later in the video. So that covers the compensation of audiologists. What is the job market like? Is this a growing field or is this a shrinking field? And if you were to go and become an audiologist, would it be hard for you to get into the job market? The Bureau of Labor Statistics has been surveying this occupation for decades. In 1999, they found that there was about 13,000 employed audiologists employed across the country. In 2019, they recorded around 13,500 employed audiologists. So over about 2 decades, there was a gain of about 600 jobs. So this occupation has not been growing very quickly when you look at the past 20 years. So as you can see, this is a very tiny occupation, and we'll actually compare it to similar occupations a little bit later in the video. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is forecasting about a 13% growth in jobs over the next 10 years. And this isn't going to be very much. This is only going to be around a little less than 2,000 jobs from 2019 to 2029. And this is just a prediction. As we've seen, there really hasn't been much job growth over the past 20 years, and we'll see if there will be some job growth over the next 10. As far as where the jobs are, really depends on the state. As with other healthcare occupations, the population of the state dictates how many jobs there are. So obviously, the state of California, the state of New York, Texas, Florida, these all have lots and lots of people, so they'll probably employ a greater amount of audiologists. And this is just like any other healthcare occupation. So how competitive is it to get a job right now? Well, one way I do this is I use Indeed.com. Indeed is a job search engine. It is extremely popular for job seekers. They pull in job postings from a lot of different sources. And what I do is I compare the number of employed to the number of job postings, and that gives us how competitive it is to get a job. When I searched for audiologist job postings, I found that there was about 944 job postings versus about 13,500 employed. This actually really isn't that bad. This gives us one job opening on Indeed.com per 14 employed audiologists. And you see this with a lot of occupations that require a doctoral degree. Because the barrier of entry is so high, because you have to go to school for so long, and typically you have to accrue a certain amount of debt just to enter an occupation, this kind of occupation, less people are going into this field. So because it's a 1-to-14 ratio, I would actually say there's a little bit of a shortage of audiologists right now, and this really actually does depend on the geography as well. As far as where audiologists work, 27% work in doctor offices, about 24% work in therapist and audiologist offices, 16% work in hospitals, and 10% work in the educational industry. But definitely keep this in mind before you go in. This is a tiny occupation, only about 13,500 jobs. Compared to similar occupations, this is extremely tiny. There's 133,000 occupational therapists, 233,000 physical therapists, 120,000 physician assistants, and as you can see, there's way more psychologists, respiratory therapists, and speech-language pathologists. This is a tiny niche field. So the next question is, would this occupation be compatible with your interests? Well, if you haven't taken a RIASEC assessment, definitely do. There's a lot of free ones all over the internet. Basically, taking a RIASEC assessment helps you figure out what your interests are, and it plugs them into 6 different domains. When you take this kind of assessment, you can compare your results with people in different occupations. So when audiologists take a RIASEC assessment, they tend to score high in the investigative and social themes. People that score high in the investigative theme tend to describe themselves as thoughtful, analytical, intellectual, complex, and curious, and they are often motivated by analyzing, inquiring, and researching different things. People that score high in the social theme tend to describe themselves as helpful, cooperative, kind, cheerful, and patient, and they are often motivated by helping, empowering, and instructing others. You tend to see a lot of healthcare occupations scoring really high in the social theme, which makes a lot of sense. As far as becoming an audiologist, every single state requires audiologists to be licensed, and before they begin working, they need to go through typically a 4-year doctoral program. This definitely requires a certain level of debt if you don't have the cash to attend some of these programs. And as with education in general, private programs tend to be much more expensive than public programs. From what I have read, many people graduating from these programs tend to have a little over $100,000 in debt. So as you can see, there are pros and cons to becoming an audiologist in 2020. Over the past 20 years, audiologists have seen about a $1,900 wage growth every single year. Given that audiologists typically need a doctoral degree before working, this $1,900 wage growth isn't as much as similar occupations, especially when you consider the fact that this requires a doctoral degree. Job growth has been pretty sluggish over the past 20 years. Really, there's only been a gain of 640 employed audiologists over the past 2 decades. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is predicting a 13% growth in jobs over the next 10, but given the past 20 years, we'll actually see if that actually happens. This is an extremely niche occupation. There's not nearly as many employed as similar occupations. Are you an audiologist? What do you enjoy and what do you dislike about this occupation? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.